podcast. Now we're going to talk with Katy Grimes, because among the many stupid things that we deal with in California, one of the worst is gonna hit us gradually over the next 10 years. Gavin Newsom's ban on gas-powered vehicles. It's just so ridiculous. And Joe Biden tried to give California a waiver to do this sort of thing, because normally it's the federal government that has authority over issues like this. But California routinely gets waivers. Now it looks like the Trump administration is going to reverse the waiver. And we have Katy Grimes on from CaliforniaGlobe.com to explain this. Katy, how are you?
Hey, John, I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'll do a lot better if they get rid of this stupid gas-powered ban. There's no way I'm driving an electric car. I just find it preposterous that because it just nothing. The system is just not ready. There's no system.
You're absolutely right.
There's no chargers. There's no electrical grid. There's no nothing.
No, and the more electricity requiring vehicles and appliances and homes we put online, the less we're going to be able to power it. Because as you said, we do not have a grid large enough in California to handle it. So this is particularly interesting to me because I've been writing about the California Air Resources Board, for years, really since 2006 when the AB 32 was passed. And just the name of it makes people's eyes glaze over because it sounds so awful, and so people don't pay much attention to it, but it is probably one of the most dangerous unelected boards we have in the state because they've been passing laws. The legislature has allowed them to, illegally, unconstitutionally, that have been increasing these ridiculous regulations on us on things like banning gas-powered cars and banning gas-powered trucks. Yeah, that's just what we need, is a truck that's going to run out of electrical charge, every 200 miles. So this on Friday, our new EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin, who, by the way, is kicking butt at the EPA, decided to take what the Biden administration did and say, oh, no, you don't. And so just before he left office, Joe Biden, rather than sending this through Congress the way it's supposed to happen, he just granted or had his EPA grant California this waiver by the EPA, allowing us to make stricter regulations for our electric car, zero emission vehicles demand in our state than even the federal government requires. That's why the waiver was needed. And again, the proper procedure is to go through Congress and have Congress vote on it. And so they tried to pull a fast one. Lee Zeldin got him on a technicality, and he yanked it. And essentially, as I put in my title, Governor Gavin Newsom's ban on gas-powered cars is dead. This is going to go nowhere fast.
And it's dead because the California Air Resources Board does not have the right to ban gas-powered cars? That violates federal law in some manner?
Well, that's just it. Ever since Jerry Brown was governor the first time, he started it, and other Democrat governors have continued this ridiculous practice of California trying to be even ahead of the feds on, the environment, with all these ridiculous things, whether it's saving the spotted owl or it's banning gas-powered cars or, removing dams on the Klamath River to save fish. They're always trying to get ahead of the federal government. And then it forces others, essentially it kind of forces other states to try to keep up with us if they're so inclined. So it's important, and CARB is not allowed to make law. Our legislature has abdicated their oversight responsibility of CARB, of Cal EPA, of the State Water Resources Control Board, of the California Coastal Commission. We could continue, but that's what's been going on. So finally, we've got some adults in Washington who are saying, not so fast, California, because what happens every time California gets away with this is suddenly then our state is turning around to auto manufacturers and saying, oh, you have to make us special cars in California And that has been ridiculously costly, just stupid. Who's suffering from climate change in this state, by the way, John? I mean, really?
Nobody.
No, it's all BS.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
Exactly.
And there's nothing.
It is.
Even if there was something significant, there is nothing that bureaucrats and politicians in California can do about it. This is a huge planet. You know, we're a tiny little speck of the entire Earth's population. There's nothing we can do. We can all kill ourselves today, and it wouldn't have any effect on the on climate change. None.
Yeah, not at all. No, not at all. And unfortunately, climate has become this ridiculous catch-all by a useless, failing governor who's now blaming the latest fires on climate change, which is almost laughable.
It is.
Yeah, it is. It's all nonsense. And it's, as I said, I mean, useless politicians love climate change.
Well, it's a great nebulous thing to blame anything that happens, right? Anything bad that happens, you could blame it on climate change, and then it justifies you to control people's lives in the most minute way to decide what kind of car they can buy, you know, how they're going to cook their food, for example, and a million other things. Suddenly you have to have electric stoves. You have to have electric this and electric. It's like, no, leave us alone. Go away. There's nothing you can do about the climate one way or the other. You can't make it worse. You can't make it better. It's going to do what it's going to do.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah, I think we're going to see more of that kind of decision making out of this adult EPA in Washington, D.C. also, because there's other ridiculous rules that, you know, aren't even law in the state that I think they're going to help unravel.
But what's wrong with them? Because they don't have an electrical grid, going back to how we started this. They don't have charging stations. None of this exists. Anything that we need to make electric car system work doesn't exist, and there's no plans to make it exist anytime soon. There's nobody building out the electrical grid in any way that would have an effect if we all went electric.
No.
It's just ridiculous.
Right. It is. And I think their move to renewable energy, i.e. solar and wind, shows you there really is no plan, because that is inefficient. It's intermittent to begin with. You get, you know, solar between 10 and 2 every day, essentially. It's ridiculous. And they're not even honest enough or smart enough to say, we can combine, say, intermittent renewable energy in certain areas where it might fit, you know, like wide open spaces in the desert might make sense for solar. Super windy areas of the state might make sense for some wind. But for the most part, no, we still need traditional sources of energy to fuel our state. And we just need a couple of adults to stand up and say that. Yeah, well, and they turned it into a religion. And they try to emotionally manipulate and guilt everybody. And a lot of people have fallen for it, but I'm just hoping it's coming to an end, because these ideas are disastrous. All right, they are.
I hope all this comes through. I think you're right, and we'll watch. We'll talk some more about this, and if you learn anything more, please come back on and share it with us. All right?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, Katy Grimes, CaliforniaGlobe.com, and her story is about the ban on gas-powered cars. Newsom's ban looks like it's dead, because the EPA head will not grant the waiver. The Biden administration tried to sneak a waiver through without sending it to Congress, and Zeldin said, well, you can't do that. Congress can only give California a waiver. Without the waiver, there is no constitutional right, legal right for the California Air Resources Board to force us into electric cars. When we return,